Welcome back to another episode of What If here on the Filmaholic channel. Today we are returning to the 90s MCU. So we're doing that. Last week we took a break from it and did the prequels, Star Wars prequels, recast all of those. So we're coming back to the MCU this week and we're covering 3 films. But this first video we're going to talk about Spider-Man. But we'll be covering Spider-Man, Thor Ragnarok, and Black Panther this week. So with Spider-Man, this is the first film, and I think you stuck with the MCU.
I just did, yeah.
So I switched it up with this one because instead of just doing Spider-Man Homecoming, which is the MCU's Spider-Man, I thought, well, if this came out in 1997, this would be before we got the Amazing Spider-Man, and it's before we got the Sam Raimi trilogy. So what would they do in the 90s with Spider-Man? Would they do Spider-Man Homecoming? Probably not, because I feel like that movie was a result of, well, we've already done these other movies. We don't want to do the same thing again, so we want to do something new. So with mine, and this goes for my second Spider-Man movie too when we get there, and possible future ones, I'm going to do a little bit of a mix of all 3, Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Homecoming, that I think would be got in the 90s. So this movie would have came out July 1997. Do you want me to go first on this one, or do you want to?
It don't matter.
So I'll go first because mine's more complicated, I think, than yours. My director that I chose for Spider-Man, which that's the title of my film, it's just Spider-Man. And the director I chose was Sam Raimi.
Yeah, that's what I chose.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I love that original film. So, and this is before that came out. A good 5 years before that one came out. So, it's around the same time that it's getting close. So, who else, who would the studio be looking at? And I think he's a good fit. He loves the character. Yeah, I think he would do a good job. And, you could even have other people that have been directors in the past in the MCU, like Spielberg, come back and produce this film as well. Yeah, so for my Spider-Man to lead this cast, I stuck with the same thing again. I chose, Tobey Maguire, which we already cast that in the last Civil War when we talked about that. So Tobey Maguire's my Spider-Man. Jeff Bridges is returning this film as well, just like in Homecoming, as Tony Stark / Iron Man, as that mentor. Sally Field's returning as Aunt May. Randy Quaid's returning as Happy Hogan, and Meryl Streep is returning as Pepper Potts. This film, although I'm sticking with the MCU's version that Uncle Ben's already dead, he will be talked about in this film. They won't make that mistake. And so then we'll go to the new cast. And this is where it gets a little different than Homecoming, for sure. Harry Osborn will be in this movie, definitely. He is Peter's best friend. And for the role of Harry Osborn, I cast Leonardo DiCaprio as Harry Osborn. And a small role in the film, more like a cameo towards the end, I have Norman Osborn, played by Willem Dafoe. For the love interest of this film, I'm going the Amazing Spider-Man route. We're going to have that vibe going on. And that's going to be Reese Witherspoon as Gwen Stacy. We are also casting George Stacy, Captain George Stacy, in this film, and Gary Sinise is going to be playing him. Now, I think an interesting thing about this is something they didn't really do in Spider-Man Homecoming that I kind of questioned was, they had the Accords going on. So really, and he wears the mask. I mean, I guess Tony was taking up for him in terms of the government. But, wouldn't people be after him? They didn't really touch upon that because, Peter hasn't signed the Accords, and he's wearing a mask in New York City. And he's got these powers. So I'm going to bring that as a factor into the film, and that's why George Stacy's after him in the film. Kind of like, he was more of a vigilante in Amazing Spider-Man. So we're bringing that into it. For Flash Thompson, I got Ryan Phillippe. How do you pronounce his last name? Phillippe. Got Ryan Phillippe as Flash Thompson. Definitely seems like a good bully to cast at the end of the 90s there. For Liz Allen, bringing her in as a smaller supporting character, got Brittany Murphy. And for a supporting villain in the film, not the main villain, but I'm going to have him play the same sort of role that he played in Homecoming, in this Mac Jargon, who will become Scorpion later on. We'll set that up in this film. We'll show him. He'll get injured, and we have an after-credit scene probably with him in prison. And Michael Madsen's going to play Mac Jargon, because just imagine him as Scorpion. That's fucking terrifying. But for my lead villain in this film, I did not go with Vulture, because I was thinking, who would they cast? Who would they pick as the villain in 1997? And I didn't want to do Goblin off the bat, so I chose Doc Ock. He's the lead villain of this film. And I cast the same person that Sam Raimi goes on to cast in his real-life Spider-Man 2, and that's Alfred Molina is playing the main villain of this film, Otto Octavius, which I would have in this movie, like how they tied Homecoming to Avengers. I would also tie this to Avengers and say that the technology that he's using to do this stuff on his back and stuff with the arms came from the New York attack. Like, he got stuff from that attack, and he's using that to make his arms. And that's my version of Spider-Man.
That sounds terrible.
Okay.
All right, so I did not do all that. I just kept the MCU. I don't have time.
I would also have it where the film would end with Gwen Stacy finding out that he's Peter.
Spider-Man.
Yes.
Yeah. Spoiler, dude. All right, so I also have Sam Raimi directing Spider-Man Homecoming. The people coming back, Jake Gyllenhaal as Peter Parker, Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, Robin Williams as Iron Man, Bob Hoskins as Happy Hogan, and Sigourney Weaver as Pepper Potts. Oh, coronavirus. Thank you. The new characters I've got, for Flash, I got Adam Brody. Yeah.
In 97?
Yeah.
Was he around then?
He was around.
Okay.
He'll be around more now. This is just slightly pre-OC times.
Slightly. 6 years.
For Liz, I've got Claire Danes. Aaron Davis, I've got Don Cheadle. And then we're just never going to use him again, apparently. So, Michelle, I've got Rachel Lee Cook. For my Ned, I've got Tobey Maguire stepping in.
That character sucks anyways. Sorry.
So does Tobey Maguire.
Let's get out of here.
And finally, my Vulture, main villain, I got Nicolas Cage.
Wow.
Terrify people.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, guys. Let us know in the comments what Spider-Man you'd be more interested in seeing, like in the 90s. Curious how you're... with my sequel, it's going to be more similar to Far From Home, but with slight changes. Because I am going to keep the same villain and stuff in that film. And the same sort of thing. But I'm also going to have it be like a little bit differently, too, in terms of with the sequel, when they do the 5 years later, some of these people in his class won't have gotten snapped. Some will, some will not. Because I think they missed an opportunity with doing that a little bit in the actual Far From Home film. All right, guys, that's Spider-Man 1997.